The internet you are using right now for watching this video is not floating in the clouds above you. It's underwater, traveling through cables that lie deep under the ocean. Whether you are sending a message, scrolling through YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Netflix, or making an international bank transfer across continents, all of it runs through underwater cables on the ocean floor without most people ever noticing. Here are 9 mind-blowing facts about underwater cables that will totally change the way you think about the internet. Fact 9. Almost the entire planet, about 99% of it, relies on fiber optic cables sitting at the bottom of the ocean. There are currently over 600 active and planned submarine cable systems worldwide. The smallest cable segment runs about 300 kilometers between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan under the Caspian Sea, and one of the largest one is about 6,600 kilometers long, known as the Maria Cable, which starts from Virginia Beach in the US and ends in Bilbao, Spain. Altogether, the total length of submarine cables across the world is approximately 1.5 to 1.7 million kilometers, which is long enough to wrap around the Earth nearly 40 times. Fact 8. Submarine cables are masterpieces of deep-sea engineering. At the very center are tiny glass fibers, each as thin as a human hair. These fibers carry all the data using flashes of light. They float in a special protective gel known as thixotropic jelly, which cushions the glass and protects it from getting any tiny cracks. To protect the fragile glass from being crushed by the pressure of the ocean, a solid steel tube surrounds the fibers. This tube is strong enough to withstand water pressure and keep the center safe even at 8,000 meters of depth, where the water pressure reaches around 5,300 kg per square inch, which is like placing the weight of an African elephant on the smallest toe of a human foot. Wrapped around that steel is a copper layer that acts as a massive power line stretching for thousands of miles. It carries up to 10,000 volts of electricity across the seafloor. Because electricity and salt water can be a dangerous mix, a thick plastic insulin layer wraps the copper that prevents any power leakage. Near the coast, where anchors or fishing nets might snag the cable, it gets a heavy metal jacket made for strong steel wires. Finally, the whole thing is coated in tough, tar-like skin. This waterproof layer protects the metal parts from rusting. Fact 7. The 10,000 volts of electricity flowing through an underwater cable aren't for the internet data itself. Light carries the data. Instead, that power is there to run repeaters. Every 60 to 100 kilometers, the cable has a repeater. A large, heavy cylinder that catches the weak light signal, amplifies it, and blasts it out strong again. Because of those repeaters, the light signals can travel across thousands of miles without fading away into darkness. Those repeaters are one of the most expensive pieces of communication hardware on the planet. A single repeater can cost between $500,000 to $1.2 million. Fact 6. The process of transferring data through an underwater cable begins at a massive building on the coast called Cable Landing Station. The moment you tap this video on your phone or computer, your device transmitted data as electrical signals that reached a cable landing station. Inside the station, a high-powered laser modulated those signals into pulses of light. This laser effectively flashes on and off billions of times per second. Let me scale it up a little. Imagine not only you but 100 million people tapped this video at once from all over the world, which is a massive amount of electrical data. To handle this, engineers use wavelength division multiplexing. This involves sending different wavelengths of laser light, like a rainbow, inside the same glass strand. Each wavelength carries its own separate stream of data, allowing millions of people to use the same hair-thin fiber simultaneously without their signals getting mixed up. Once inside the cable, data travels at the speed of light within glass, which is about 200,000 kilometers per second. The light stays trapped inside the glass fiber because it is wrapped up in a mirror-like layer called the cladding. Every time the light hits the edge, it bounces back and moves forward in a zigzag pattern. Because light naturally fades over long distances, the signal passes through a repeater every 100 kilometers. This device catches the weak light signal, amplifies it, and blasts it out at full strength again. This allows the light to travel across thousands of miles without fading away into darkness. When the light finally reaches the landing station on the other side of the ocean, the pulses hit a photodetector. This sensor sees the flashes and converts them back into electrical signals. These signals then travel through a backhaul network to a massive Google data center. Inside, a server identifies the video data you requested and sends the video data back to you in thousands of small packets. Those packets come back to you through the same infrastructure in reverse. Your device then receives these electrical ones and zeros, puts them back in the correct order to reconstruct the video you are watching. Fact 5. Laying submarine cables near the coast costs about $500,000 to $2.5 million per kilometer. That's because around those parts, the cable is wrapped in a multiple layer of thick steel and buried 1 to 3 meters under the seabed. To hide it from being hit by a boat anchor near the coast, cutting a trench through the ocean floor with a sea plow is not only slow but also a highly advanced and extremely expensive operation. However, once the ship is out in the open ocean, the cost drops. In these areas, the cable can be much thinner, about the width of a garden hose, because there is no danger of being harmed by anchors or fishing nets, and it costs around $15,000 to $25,000 per kilometer. Can you imagine how much laying 1.5 to 1.7 kilometers of underwater cables must have cost? Fact 4. Despite their strength, cables can be damaged by earthquakes, sharks, or underwater volcanic eruptions. However, the most common cause is fishing activity. Commercial fishing boats often use heavy nets that drag along the seafloor to catch fish. If these hit a cable, it can cause serious damage. Beyond accidental damage, cables can be harmed by intentional sabotage too, because these cables carry almost all the world's data and over $10 trillion of financial transactions every day. They are considered high priority targets during international conflicts. Fact 3. How can you find where a cable has broken in such a vast ocean? Once the underwater cables are installed, both ends are connected to data centers that monitor them 24 hours. If the connection drops, it indicates a fault somewhere along the line. To locate the exact point, a device called an optical time domain reflectometer sends light pulses through the fiber. Because the cable is broken, the pulses reflect back. By measuring the return time and signal strength, engineers calculate the exact distance to fault. This process is performed from both ends to confirm the exact location of where the cable is broken. Fact 2. Repairing cables deep under the ocean is a massive challenge and a very complex task. In shallow waters near the coast, specialized divers or remotely operated vehicles can perform repairs. However, in in the deep ocean where cables can sit thousands of miles down, it is impossible for humans to reach the site. Instead, a cable repair ship uses a specialized grapnel or an ROV to locate and hook the damaged cable. The ship then pulls the broken ends of the cable up to the surface and secures them on deck. Inside a clean, climate-controlled room, engineers splice the hair-thin glass fibers back together. Once the repair is done and tested, the cable is lowered back to the seabed. Fact 1. The Atlantic Telegraph Company tried to lay the first telegraph cable in 1857, but the cable broke. They tried again in 1858 and it worked for 23 days only. Queen Victoria said hello and US President James Buchanan said hi back before failing. I am kidding. Queen Victoria said a 98-word message that took 16 hours to transmit. President Buchanan's reply was a formal 150-word letter. Anyway, it all worked for 23 days only. Then they had to wait until after the American Civil War to try again in 1865. That one failed as well. Then in 1866 they tried again, and this time it worked and went on working. The project was funded by Cyrus Field and other private investors. It cost millions of dollars in 1860s money. However, once it worked, it changed the world overnight. News that used to take 10 days to cross the ocean by ship now took minutes, making the investors incredibly wealthy and revolutionizing global trade and diplomacy. Which proves that if you have a great idea and you have the determination to keep pushing forward despite the difficulties, the future can be yours. Right now, I am in a stage of my life where I need your support because I am determined to turn this channel into something great on YouTube. So subscribe.